Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. Today I have my June reading wrap up. The summer reads are here. So in June I read 7 books in total, 4 of which were physical reads and 3 were on my Kindle, 2 of which were actually ARCs. But let's just get into it. I think majority of them were romance except one, and we do have a recurring theme of a cowboy romance. Who's surprised? Not me. But let's get into it. I'm going to do the physical books first. So I read 4 physical books in the month of June. I was actually on holiday in Thailand for the first half of June. So I did take all of these books with me and I did read them whilst I was there. So let's just get into it. The first one that I read was Rootbound by Tara Dewitt. So this is a ranch based romance. I actually have never read anything by this author before, but I do know of a few of her books. I think is she the author that writes Funny Feelings? I feel like I can picture the book covers, but I'd never read any of her books before. This was the first one that I'd picked up. I started this when I was on the plane. I don't really know how I feel about this one. I did not love it, that is for sure. But in the first 80, maybe 100 pages, I kind of wanted to DNF it because I was obviously stuck on an airplane and the book just did not seem like it was going anywhere. I kind of wanted a book that was going to fully transport me and distract me, and I just felt like this was not doing that. But I did persevere with it, and kind of after the first 100 pages it did pick up a little bit, but I still felt like I was kind of waiting for not the plot, but kind of something to kick in or for me to feel invested, and I just didn't quite get there. But basically this follows Tate and Henry. I was trying to think what the guy is called. Literally could not have even told you the names. She is a photographer, and she is basically estranged from her dad's side of the family. I think he left when they were pretty young and they've kind of not seen each other since. But she basically gets a photography job for this famous ranch that has basically had a TV show about it, and now they want her to go and photograph the ranch. And then she realises that it's her family's ranch, so she basically accepts the job without knowing it's her family's ranch, and then when it's getting to it she realises, and then she obviously has to go and she is confronted with her family. So you kind of have that little storyline. But then the guy basically is a rancher on the ranch, obviously, and he was basically taken in by her family at a pretty young age, so he is very defensive of them. It goes on about that a lot at the back, that he's defensive of them and he doesn't want her to kind of be getting close to the family for the wrong reasons now that we've got the fame from the ranch. But that kind of disappears straight away. I thought that was going to kind of be more of a recurring theme and a bit of a barrier, if you will, in the relationship. It literally was not. It was gone after the first discussion, which is fair enough, but I don't know. I just felt like I was not really emotionally connected to them. I did like the setting and I liked the kind of family trope. There's something about a ranch or cowboy romance where you can just imagine the full family sat around a big farmhouse table. Love that, because it just gives me Chestnut Springs vibes. But I just didn't particularly like the girl, I didn't particularly like the guy, I didn't really feel anything for them together. I think I rated this a 2.5 because once I was in it I was getting more invested, but I just wasn't quite there, which is disappointing because I had high hopes for this one. Then I actually went on to a thriller read and I read Survive the Night by Riley Sager. Honestly, another disappointing read, I'm going to be so real. I have seen this pretty much everywhere for years, I want to say. Since I came on Bookstagram, I feel like I've seen this book, or at least seen this author. Again, my first Riley Sager book, and I just didn't love it. So this one is obviously a thriller. It's kind of a one setting kind of thriller where the 2 main characters to begin with are sat in a car with each other. Basically, the female main character, she lives on campus of the college. Her best friend has recently just been murdered by the campus killer. She wants a ride home because she's leaving college, so they kind of do a rideshare scheme thingy. She gets in the car with this guy stupid when there's literally a murderer on the loose. But anyways, she gets in the car with this guy and then she starts thinking that he is the murderer. There's obviously like twists and turns along the way, but none of them really caught me off guard, and I literally could not help but feel so pissed off at the main character because I just think she was stupid, literally so stupid. And then the only plot twist that we really had in the book, I saw it coming. So I would not say that this was my favourite thriller of all time. I literally would probably give this a 2 stars again. Like, I kept on reading it and it was pretty, was it fast paced? I feel like it wasn't that fast paced because it was only set in one setting. Like, it was just in the car, and I was getting a little bit repetitive, like I was getting a little bit tired of it. But because I was getting so pissed off at the main character, I kept on reading it because I was like, what is going to happen next? Like, what fucking stupid move is she going to do next? But yeah, I just felt a little bit disappointed by this one, which is maybe surprising because I feel like people really enjoyed it. Like, when I posted this on my story and when I've featured this in like posts and things, a lot of people have been like, oh, I can't wait to see what you think about it. I didn't enjoy it. That's what I think. Like, I am going to give a few more of their books a go because I have heard good things in general, like about the author, but this one was just not one for me. Wasn't a fan. Then I went back to my trusty romances and I picked up The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Again, this is my first book of hers. We have like a little bit of a recurring theme here of trying authors for the first time. I just really wanted like an easy to read rom-com kind of vibes, and this delivered on that. I had heard very good things about her books, so that is why I took one with me. But this basically follows Nora and Derek. Derek is a professional footballer, he's in the NFL, and Nora is a sports agent. She basically ends up becoming his agent, but there is like a underlying factor that they were college exes. They were together in college and they kind of don't want anybody to know. He has a grudge against her. She doesn't want him or anybody else to think that she's only got the position because she is his ex. So it's kind of like kept under wraps a little bit to begin with. But then they get married in Vegas. Like, on a drunken night, they go and get married in Vegas. And then they kind of have to navigate a little bit of fake dating because they're trying to sell it that it wasn't a drunken whim. They don't want to ruin the relationship. Like, they're so in love. But then you do kind of have the pining as well from them being college exes, and I just really enjoyed this one. I think I rated it like a 3.75. Like, it wasn't groundbreaking by any means. It wasn't my all-time favourite love story that I've ever read. I actually found the female main character a little bit annoying because I feel like she was just one of those characters that people write to try and make them quirky, try and make them different. They're not like the other girls because she wears like fucking bright colours or something. I don't know. But it was a very easy to read, quick paced kind of rom-com, and I really enjoyed it. The last physical book that I read is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broker. Hoping I'm pronouncing that right. I've had this on my physical TBR for years, literally so long, and I feel like I mention it all the time, but somebody must have said it and it's like stuck in my brain. But I feel like this came out around about the same time as Book Lovers, and this also focuses on 2 authors. I know that Book Lovers isn't 2 authors, but it's set in like the literary book kind of world, and I feel like people have drawn a lot of comparisons between them. Now reading them, there's literally no comparison, but I think that's why I put it off, and then it just slowly went down and down my TBR. But this basically follows Katrina and Nathan, who met in college. They are both writers. They had written maybe 1 or 2 books previously together, and then all of a sudden something happens between them and their personal relationship and work relationship as authors is like done. And since then, Katrina has like retired from writing. She doesn't write anymore. Nathan is still writing, but all of his books are kind of flopping a little bit, and they have 1 more book left in their contract to write together. There's all of this like public controversy and public, like, what is the word? Basically people are jumping to conclusions of like why they split up, why their relationship, like professional relationship, ended, and they've never spoke about it until they agree to write the next book together. So this is kind of like a second chance romance. You have like the pining, I guess, enemies to lovers because they really do not like each other to begin with. Like, they can barely even stand to be in the same room, but they grow closer through writing the next book together. I did enjoy this one, but it just felt a little bit slow for me. Like, I don't think I particularly loved the guy or the girl. So then when you put them together, I'm not 100% invested in the relationship. Like, I don't really care whether they end up together or not. I do think this was really well written. Like, I liked the way that it was written. It just felt a little bit slow for me. Like, there was angst, but not enough if you're gonna make it like an enemies to lovers. They've not spoke for however many years. They have history. Like, it wasn't hitting the boxes that I wanted it to hit. So I think I gave this one like a 3 stars as well. Honestly, the paperbacks were not doing very well this month. I was not doing that great. A little bit of a flop, but it's fine. So they are the 4 paperbacks that I read in June. Honestly, not that great, but at least I've got some ticked off the physical TBR. Moving on to my Kindle reads, these were generally a little bit better. So I actually read 2 arcs and then started a new series. So the series that I started is the Gold Rush Ranch series? Yes, the Gold Rush Ranch series by our queen, Elsie Silver. So I read Off to the Races. I started this, I think like in May, like at the beginning of May. It took me so long to read this book just because I would read a little bit of it and then I would get distracted by other books on my physical TBR or on my Kindle because I just didn't feel like I was gripped in it as much as I was expecting to be. I just honestly kind of kept forgetting about it, which is not great. But basically this one is number 1 in the series. This actually came out before Chestnut Springs and I feel like you can tell in the writing style. But I do still love Elsie Silver and her books and everything. But this one follows Billy and Vaughn. Vaughn is just not a name that sounds nice in like a British accent. Like in American, like Vaughn, it sounds so much nicer, but Vaughn just does not sound cute. Anyway, follows Billy and Vaughn. So Billy is a horse trainer. Vaughn has like a ranch. No, not a ranch, he has racehorses. And basically they've invested a whole lot of money in this one racehorse that will not let anybody near them. I think that's kind of like the main thing. He like the racehorse is not racing basically. So they bring in Billy to try and train him up. Billy kind of has like a little bit of a past as well. Vaughn is currently dealing with a scandal in his family. His granddad previously owned the race horses and basically he was accused of fixing races. So he's trying to fix his reputation whilst Billy is kind of like not escaping from a past, but she is like creating this new life for herself, I guess. They are like the subplots that are going on in the background, but the main plot is Billy trying to train this horse. Billy is, honestly, she really reminds me of Willa. Like, she gives very much Willa vibes, who you guys know Willa is my queen. I'm talking about Willa from Heartless in the Chestnut Springs series, by the way. I love her. She was my favourite girl in that series. And honestly, Billy kind of gave me similar vibes. Like, she's feisty, she sticks up for herself, she defends like the people around her with like everything that she has. And I really liked Billy as a female main character. But Vaughn, I wasn't a huge fan of. He just didn't really do it for me. He is like the, you know, the billionaire trope. I'm realising I am more of a blue collar man compared to a billionaire. Controversial, I know. But like, I don't know, he just didn't do it for me. I didn't feel connected to him. I wasn't pining for him. I wasn't simping for him. I did enjoy the book though. Like, I felt like the first maybe like 100 or so pages, however much percentage, I felt like was pretty slow and I felt like I wasn't quite connecting to the characters. But the more that we got into it, I actually really enjoyed even reading about like the horse racing. Like I said, I really liked Billy's character, and anything set on like a ranch kind of setting I really love. We also got little glimpses of Violet in this book, who is the sister. Is she the sister? She's a sister to the Chestnut Springs boys. So I will be reading on to see her book, but I really did enjoy it as like a starter novel. I feel like people have said that maybe like book 3 and 4 or 3 and 5 or something in the series are the best. But I think I ended up rating this like a 3.5-ish. Not the best, but not the worst, and I did still enjoy it, and I will be continuing on with the series. And then the next book that I read, and the first arc that I read this month, was The Sharpest Edges by Anna Calloway. So this one is a prison inmate romance, which is crazy for me. I've never read a prison inmate romance, and there's a certain video going around currently, like a viral TikTok, that kind of made reading a prison inmate romance feel a little bit weird, but here we are. I liked this more than I was expecting to, because it wasn't like the guy was a sweetheart. Like, the guy was so cute that, like, I kind of went into it expecting him to be like some fucking mob boss, and he was gonna like, it was gonna be a little bit sketch, you know what I mean? But he was not. He was just misunderstood, guys. He was just misunderstood. So it follows Dean, who is in prison on a drug charge, but it actually is not his fault, just to preface that. And it follows Ava, who is the prison nurse. So obviously that is how they meet. They both have pretty traumatic pasts and history that they are like battling through, trying to get through, working through. And it really felt like they were just both sweethearts. Like, they really just deserved to end up together. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It was pretty fast paced, and I think because I've never read this trope before, I absolutely ate it up. Like, I read this in like a day because I was kind of almost expecting something else to happen. It was pretty, not flat in a bad way, but like, with it being set in a prison, with him being a prison inmate, I kind of expected there to be some big plot twist or things not to have been what they said they were, but it wasn't, and I did like that because I hate a third act breakup anyway. But I was pleasantly surprised by this one, not in a bad way, but just like, because I've not read the trope, I didn't know if it would be for me, but I did like the way that this was done. It was also written in third person, which, going into it, when I first realised that, I was like, oh no, because I feel like you always hear people talking about third person, but I could not tell you the last time I read a third person book. But honestly, did not mind that at all. Whether that is like something that will be consistent with me across all third person books, I don't know, or just because of how this one was written, but I actually didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. I think I would probably rate it like a 3.5, 3.75, a 4, somewhere in that range, because I did enjoy it. There's like a little to nothing really that I like strongly disliked in this book, but I don't know if it's going to be a favourite going forwards, and I don't know if it's one that I would like think of when you ask me like my favourite books, but a good solid read. I did really enjoy it. And then the final book that I read, the last arc that I read, and honestly probably my favourite book that I read in the month of June, is Live, Ranch, Love by Emma Lucy. So I followed Emma Lucy on Instagram for a while, I think since I started seeing teasers of this book, and then I signed up for the arc for it because I was like, I need this book. From the snippets that I've seen, the previews that I've seen, like, I need to read that. And then I obviously got accepted to have the arc, and I was literally so excited, and I was not disappointed. I loved this book so much. So this is the first book in the new Willow Ridge series that she's going to be doing. This is her debut novel, and honestly, I would not have known. Like, I feel like a lot of debut novels you can't tell anyway, or me personally, I can't tell. But for a debut novel, this was immaculate. I really think this book has the potential to go viral. Like, when it comes out, I think this will be like the book that everybody is reading, and I really think the series has, based off obviously this book, I think that the series has potential to be like the next Chestnut Springs, like kind of give those vibes, which I am really excited about. But basically this follows Aurora and Wyatt. So Aurora is actually British. She is like a wellness influencer, and basically she has to go to this ranch that she kind of like grew up on. It was her auntie's ranch, and she essentially becomes the owner of this ranch. She doesn't know what to do with it. She goes there to try and sell the ranch, and she meets Wyatt, who is like the head rancher. She just wants to get there and sell it and be done with it. He obviously wants to keep his job. It's kind of like a little bit, not enemies to lovers, but there's like angst between them because he's grumpy. She's like this overly positive, like not hippie-ish, but like wellness. She manifests, she does meditations. Like, they are just pretty different characters, and you kind of have like a little bit of like tension between them. they butt heads a little bit, but then basically Aurora comes up with the idea to turn the ranch into a wellness retreat. The ranchers are keeping their jobs. She is kind of like putting her interest into the ranch. You kind of see their relationship bloom. It's like, is she going to stay there? Is she not? What's going to happen? There's an ex involved, 2 exes in fact. It's set on a ranch. You meet other characters. Obviously this book as well is kind of like setting up the rest of the series, which, might I just say, the tropes in the rest of the series, I will die. There's a second chance bull rider book coming. I think that is like book 4 or something in the series, but I need that immediately. Like, I need that right now. I just loved this so much. Like, it was so good. I loved the characters, like the main characters. I loved the secondary characters, the background characters, the friendship group, the setting. Everything about this was perfect to me. Loved it. I would give this like a 4.5. I do think that the next books in the series have potential to be 5-star reads for me. I just loved it. I thought it was so good, and such a good debut novel. Like I've said a billion times, I cannot wait to see more in this series, and I would strongly recommend that everybody reads this when it comes out. So that is all of the books that I read in June. We are moving more into the summer rom-coms. I'm back in my romance era and I'm living for it. As you can tell, summer to me equals cowboy romance. I love me a cowboy. Yeah. As always, if you do want to stay more up to date on what I'm reading, current reviews, everything like that, make sure you're following my book Instagram. It is readwith.georgia. You can also follow my Goodreads. I have that linked down there. But I am excited to see what books I'm going to read next. I am on like a physical TBR kick because I have been gravitating a lot towards my Kindle, but I keep on buying books. So my physical TBR is just growing and I'm not reading them. So we need to get that sorted. So I'm hopefully going to tick off a few in the month of July as well. There are a few new releases that I've picked up that are on my radar, and also I have so many summer romances that I want to read. So make sure you follow me over on Instagram so you can see all of that, and also of course subscribe here so you can see what I'm reading, little snippets of things like that before I do my wrap-ups. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.